Shohei delivers in many different ways, pitching, hitting, in the box office, in the sponsorship, wherever it is. Yes, he does very well for us. And then again, I think that it's helped baseball throughout the country. When you watch the Dodgers play wherever we're playing, every time Shohei's up at bat, you see Japanese signage right behind us. So it's helping the entire game. It's good for the game. It's good for the sport.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of SBJ's On Stage. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. Today, we're going inside one of the most storied franchises in sports, the Los Angeles Dodgers. This conversation took place on September 17th, 2025 at SBJ's Axis Drive event in Los Angeles. Stan Kasten, CEO and president of the Dodgers, and Lon Rosen, the club's executive vice president and chief marketing officer, joined SBJ's publisher and executive editor, Abe Madkour, for an in-depth discussion. From building championship teams to creating a global sports brand, Kasten and Rosen share lessons on leadership, marketing, and innovation that every executive can take back to their own organization. Let's go on stage.
What legends we have on the stage with us. Stan Kasten, Lon Rosen, need no introduction. If you don't know their history, please look it up because it's amazing. Okay. If you've never read the Champions Profile on Stan Kasten and SBJ, I believe Tom Friend wrote that. It's a phenomenal piece. And one of the great part of the story, I reread it on the flight, when you saw Ted Turner for the first time and you convinced your wife that you just had to go say hi to him. And that basically started it.
Yeah, that's basically, I was on a break and I did then what I do now for fun. I drove around the country going to ball games. And this was one night we were in St. Louis, and it was the Cardinals against the Braves. I was in my last year of law school, or I guess I just got out of law school. And I saw him running up and down. Back then, people didn't even know who Ted Turner was. I don't know to this day how I knew who he was. But at the end of the game, I said, I think I'm going to go up and talk to him. And I did, and we hit it off, and he invited me down, and I've lived in Atlanta for almost 50 years now.
Was that during your honeymoon when you...
No, the next year, I got married, and on my honeymoon, we went to all 5 California stadiums. So that's the first time I was ever in Dodger Stadium, was on my honeymoon. So that's a true story. I couldn't have made that up.
Because Ted gave you his card, said, look me up, let's maybe see something work, and he hired you. You said you'd work for free.
Yeah, well, no, he remembered it free. I remembered cheap.
Right,
but eventually, he did pay me cheap. But it all worked out.
And he's humble, but like GM of 3 different teams?
President, yeah.
President?
Yeah.
I mean, Thrashers, Braves, Nationals, Dodgers. I mean, the history's amazing. And now you're accused of ruining baseball by having the Dodgers with the payroll.
I don't think they thought this was how we were going to ruin baseball. But I think we're pretty good stewards of the game. I think we, the Dodgers, have always brought a lot of attention to the game, and never before like what we are doing now. So it's been a great last few years, and I think our future is even brighter.
I mean, 12 straight years of making the postseason. What's it mean for your business, and especially with players like Ohtani?
Well, what it means for our business is everything. We're really fortunate to have an ownership group that actually puts money into the organization and helps us achieve the goals we want to do. We've been there since 2012. That year we did not make the playoffs, but every year since we have, and we will make it this year. Even based on last night's game, we still will. Our business has been really incredible in the last couple of years because of, where did he go? Our partner, Shohei Ohtani, this was one of our bobbleheads. He does help our business quite a bit, like no other athlete we have ever seen in the history of athletics, I believe.
I will say that I've been told plenty of times that this organization makes more money in sponsorship revenue from Japan because of Ohtani and other players than maybe up to 10 baseball teams make in terms of their total sponsorship revenue. I'm not saying you have to confirm or deny that, but it shows the volume of business you do in that marketplace.
Shohei delivers in many different ways, pitching, hitting, in the box office, in the sponsorship, wherever it is. Yes, he does very well for us. And then again, I think that it's helped baseball throughout the country. When you watch the Dodgers play wherever we're playing, Every time Shohei's up at bat, you see Japanese signage right behind it. So it's helping the entire game. It's good for the game. It's good for the sport.
One of my favorite people, Janet Marie Smith, has done a lot in your venue over the years. For those who are going for the first time, Stan and Lon, what's so special about, what should they be sure to check out tonight?
First of all, we ever since we got there, we have what is now a 60-year-old building. We're never going to make it a new building, but we can make it a 21st century experience. And that's what we have done, widened concourses, freshened up the bathrooms and the concession stands and all that. But when you go into the grand entrance, which is in center field, that's an innovation because we never had a grand entrance before. And you will see that when you come in that way, you are greeted by a statue of Sandy Koufax and Jackie Robinson, and then 2.5 acres of food and entertainment and music and history, and it's jammed all the time. That's a particular innovation that Janet spearheaded that is just in the last few years. So by all means, if you get there early and take some time to go through the center field plaza because it's unlike anything we've seen here before. And we can't imagine how we ever did business without it because we use it 365 days a year. People come in, sponsors come in, we have different events and different things going on there all the time. And we have tours, as Lon will tell you, every day of the year, 4 different languages, 12 tours a day. And a lot of that was spearheaded by Shohei's arrival.
What's special for you in the venue?
Well, what Stan was touching on is, it was Janet and Stan spearhead this. Our building used to operate as 5 separate buildings. We had different levels, and you couldn't really get from one level to the other. You couldn't go to the pavilion. And now you can circumvent the building 360 degrees, which is really the way people watch sporting events now. They don't really sit in their seat the whole time. They kind of explore the buildings, and they get their food from different places, and they kind of hang out in different areas, and we now have that. As Stan mentioned, it's a 60-year-old plus building. When we first got there, I think we were told if you plug in one more fan, the whole thing might blow up. Last season, we did another build. We got a new player who said, I don't want to tell the story. Stan, tell the batting cage story.
While we were recruiting Roki Sasaki, we were deep into the planning for modernizing our clubhouse, which we had begun planning for the year before when we were recruiting Shohei. And it was late in the game, and Roki asked a question, are you going to have fancy Japanese toilets? And for any of you who have ever been overseas, particularly Japan, these are real works of art and works of function. And I said, well, why do you ask? Is that important? He says, oh yeah, that's really important. And I said, oh yeah, then we're having them in there. And so overnight we changed our plans, and now the entire locker room has these fancy Japanese toilets, which come with, consoles, and he knew how to work them. And our first day back after our trip, I walked him into the bathroom. I showed him, we've got the Japanese toilets, just like we always planned.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't know he did stand the president of bathrooms after that. Yeah. But it was also about, we also built a new clubhouse last year because when we were signing Shohei, one of the things he noticed, we only have one batting cage. So we had to rebuild our clubhouse anyhow. We had done it about 12 years ago, starting to get small, even though it's much larger than you can imagine. So we built this, and we added a second batting cage. And in the off season, Shohei came into the office, and he went 50 for 50 and won the MVP. And Stan says to him, how come it'd be better with 2 batting cages? And he answered, Stan, the batting cage is my home. So his home is there, and he had another 50 home runs.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that, right? Okay.
You guys get to yes pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
So a lot of conversation about revenue all the last couple of days. You guys have both been in the business a number of years. Steve Ballmer asked, what's the next big revenue stream? He's trying to focus on that. What is the next big revenue stream in sports? He was talking about sponsorships and ticketing. Could be limited after a while. You can only grow them so much.
Well, maybe so, but not for baseball because we have lagged behind internationally, which means we have so much potential, particularly with the advent of new delivery platforms, social media, TV, streaming, little dancing holograms, whatever it is. There's a whole world out there that we have yet to exploit, but because of the presence of international players the last few years, there's greater opportunity now than ever. There's greater interest and appeal internationally for baseball than ever before. And I think that's the next great place for us to strike.
To that point, Netflix doing the deal for the World Cup of Baseball in Japan, certainly that's driving some of the interest like that. And so do you feel globalization is your best new revenue stream?
Well, for us, it's been a revenue
Right.
stream. Since we signed Shohei Ohtani, we've developed a very strong business in Japan, and it only keeps growing. I think as you look at baseball and the innovations that have happened in baseball, speeding up the game, the shot clock, next year with the robo umpires that are possibly coming in there, I think all of these help people internationally really to better understand our game. As you speed up the games, and you see that in every sport, it does help. That will help with the globalization of the game quite a bit. And again, I know that the league's spending an enormous amount of time on how to grow this internationally. You just look at, we went the last 2 seasons and opened up our season 2 years ago in Korea and this year in Japan, and they were both tremendous success for everybody.
And so to that point, what you're talking about in terms of just growing the game, growing the fan base, when your fans' reaction to the pace of the play and to the changes to baseball, bottom line, you feel the game on the field's in a good spot.
Oh, for sure. And we've demonstrated a willingness to make changes on the fringes that improve the sport. I think everyone should be aware, wow, they're really listening, they're paying attention, and they're trying to make it better for fans. And I think you will see more of that coming in the next few years.
Once it's Commissioner Stan Kasten, what's the one thing you would change to baseball?
First thing he would do is fire that commissioner, because he wants nothing to do with that job. But I think I would focus on the things we already are focusing on, and that is using technology and all the new technologies. AI is one tool, but there are more, both on the field and in business. Expand our international delivery of our things. And another thing that we should watch is, and the current commissioner is really working on this too, we need to improve our relations with our players even more than we have recently, because that would unlock so many opportunities for us to improve the game, and it would be good for the players, it would be good for the teams, but really good for the fans. If we got that better understanding between teams and players, a whole lot of good things could happen.
You could grow the game collectively.
Yeah.
What would Commissioner Lon Rosen do to change baseball?
I would definitely not fire Stan, but look, I think we all look at baseball and say, where it was 10 years ago to where it's going now, where can we grow? I'm going to keep saying international is important, the innovations are important, but as Stan said, we need to have a much better relationship with the players. We personally have a great relationship with our players and our team, but to really grow the sport, you need cooperation on both sides, and I think, Rob's doing a really nice job trying to get there, and they're getting there slowly, but the next couple of years are going to be really, really important for that. You look at the players like Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge and all these great players. That brings excitement to the game. We don't want to lose that momentum. So the next couple of years are going to be critical for that, and we all hope and we all assume it's going to all work out, but that's what's needed. Again, the sport has continued to innovate, and that's what has to continue.
You're very lucky to have 2 people with such knowledge, so ask questions at any time. To that end, I think one of the greatest opportunities, LA 28 Olympics. Do you think MLB players will play in those games?
We hope so. It's going to be at Dodger Stadium. Decision hasn't been made yet. It's a great opportunity for baseball, for the globalization of baseball. Once you can have that happen in the Olympics, you got the whole world watching. So I think that we know that Major League Baseball wants it to happen. We're hoping the Players Association wants it to happen. We know our players that we speak to, they want it to happen. The WBC has been a big, big hit. So we're all keeping our fingers crossed. And we've been having meetings because either way, there's going to be baseball in the Olympics.
All I know is this. There has been no decision or no agreement made yet. I agree with whatever Lon has said. I will tell you this. There are a couple of Dodger pitchers and some part-time pitchers who are really hoping to see a gold medal game in Dodger Stadium. So that would be cool for a lot of people.
I think it could be such a huge event. And World Baseball Classic, you mentioned that's happening this year.
That's it.
Yep. So that'll, and the last iteration was incredibly successful.
With Shohei against Mike Trout.
That's right. Stan, you have a side job all of you have a side job, where you're also launching a professional women's hockey league. You're starting 2 new franchises, Seattle, Vancouver. Buzz that I'm hearing, those will be very successful expansion markets.
I feel I can say it already. They will be our 2 most successful franchises, and we've already had a great start. First of all, they're playing in bigger buildings than we started out with our other teams. They are already leading our league in season ticket sales.
Is that right, those 2?
Yeah, we're going to announce, and in every city this year, every city we have sold more season tickets than we had last year. It's just one indicator of how the interest in the league is growing. The 2 expansion teams we added this year are just the 2 leaders of what is going to become a movement. We are going to be adding more teams much sooner than other people thought because the demand is there. The players are there. You know, there are a lot of great European players who weren't available because they were holding out to play for their country's Olympics. Now that that's over, we're going to have more of those players desperate to come over and play in the foremost women's hockey league in the world, which is the PWHL. So look forward to more announcements soon.
Has that league success, has it surprised you how
Yeah, it surprised the hell out of me, especially because we had to do it so fast. You know the story. It was impossible. The people told me it was impossible were all correct. It was impossible, and yet we had the best players in the world with a collective bargaining agreement that codified the things they had been looking for to finally, for the first time in their lives, be treated as the professionals that they always were. Put those things together, and it has been, I never could have predicted. And last year's Harris poll in Canada of the most respected brands throughout Canada, the PWHL finished number 1.
Amazing.
So yeah, we're surprised and just delighted by it.
What is missing in terms of the continued growth of women's sports? Is it sponsorship? Is it media distribution? Like when you're banging the drum?
For us, it's media. We don't have that locked in yet, but again, we were a kind of a niche sport in 6 cities. Now we're 8. Soon we're going to be more. Our footprint is going to be across North America, as we've always been saying. The next thing that needs to happen for us is a stronger media deal, and that's in the works.
And also investment. When you look at women's sports, it's so important. We're watching the WNBA going through their growing pains, and it's one of the most exciting things to watch. You watch a WNBA game, you're into it. You need to keep that investment. You need to get people to support it. You need the sponsors. You need the media deals, and again, globalization won't hurt it at all as well. We have an ownership in a tennis tournament, the Billie Jean King Cup, which is the Davis Cup of women's tennis, and it's happening right now in Sichuan, China. Shenzhen. I'm going to get it right one time. But we look at women's sports as a great opportunity.
Mark Walter, I find to be one of the most interesting people in the sports business. For the uneducated like me, what's it like to work with him, for him?
You go first.
I'll tell you a funny story. When he and I first got together 13 years ago, we were pursuing a baseball team, a different team. Turned out we just wound up with the Dodgers. But when we finally got the team, he said to me, listen, Stan, I am a baseball fan, and I have opinions, and I am going to give them to you endlessly, and you are to disregard all of them.
Is that what he said?
Because he said, if we're doing this by my opinions, I don't need you here. So I'm relying on you. And so when I hired Andrew Friedman, I told him that anecdote, which is amusing. I'm not sure he really believed it. Then he finally met Mark. Mark said the same thing to Andrew. That is how Mark is. Mark empowers you to do your job. My philosophy about building teams and building companies is hire good people, let them do their job. That's exactly how Mark is. Mark's very involved in the big decisions. We consult with him as often as we feel we want some of his input, but I'll also go a long period of time without hearing from him because he's just too busy doing bigger and better things than just the tiny little Dodgers. So I've had a number of owners to work for in my life. this is as good as it gets in terms of giving you the resources, giving you the authority to get to the finish line. And the finish line for us is always being in the postseason and winning.
Point of view on Mark's leadership.
It's a pleasure to work for him. We're really fortunate. Here's a guy that has a pretty big portfolio of companies, and he does like sports, and he keeps buying sports franchises, as I'm sure many of you know. The Laker deal will close hopefully in October, mid-October. He'll be controlling that. He has a PWHL. He has a piece of Chelsea. It keeps growing and growing. He has an F1 team that starts at the Miami race, and that's a really exciting opportunity for him, and we're all quite involved with it. Tonight, the driver, Sergio Perez, is going to be throwing out the first pitch at Dodger Stadium so we can cross-pollinate all our businesses. So all of it it's exciting for people like us and everybody else to sort of get involved with all types of different things. You know, you talked a little about the PWHL. In a couple of years, this is going to be like a case study at Harvard, how this league started. The incredible success of something as quickly as it was done had nothing to do with it. It was that guy over there, Royce Cohn and Stan. It is just so remarkable that this came from the ashes of some failed leagues. It was put together in 6 months, and it just took off. Again, it had good investment, but it had great leadership, and that's what's needed in these leagues. Really solid leadership and understanding what's in front of you.
I would also say, Mark Walter, incredibly unassuming, under the radar. He doesn't need to be out there front and center all the time. What about, you have both been in it a long time, private equity in sports. Did you anticipate it being such an asset class? Is it good for sports?
I think I always thought it should be involved. You know, I was in Atlanta at a time people were denouncing corporate ownership.
Correct.
Right? Nonsense, right? It depends on who you put in place, what kind of resources you commit to it. Any of that could work. I always felt that way about private equity. And the reason is, unlike a lot of assets, it's not going to go to zero, you know, unlike stocks or anything you invest in. It has a pretty good record of growth. It has this unique appeal to ultra high net worth individuals, which is going to keep valuations growing. I think what we've seen in the last few years is not going to slow down, and it's been an exciting time. Private equity has played a real role in all of that. I think the Dodgers acquisition 12 years ago for an insane $2 billion, which was denounced widely, and when people kept asking Mark about that, I loved his best answer was, well, because it was worth so much more. That's why he did that, and that's what we've seen. And that shows no signs of ending anytime soon.
The Lakers in 1979, Jerry Buss bought the Lakers, the Kings, and the Forum for $69 million. The Lakers just traded at a $10 billion valuation. That tells you where sports is going.
I love that you can pull, that's amazing. And that you were there under Jerry Buss under those years is fantastic.
Wait, I was in the room for the Hawks when we voted Jerry into the league. So that's how old I am.
Well, I also argue that Jerry, I still think, is a seminal figure when it comes to
For sure he is.
Incredible.
And sometimes now not forgotten, but yeah, sometimes overlooked. But yes, I agree. What is this about a gondola potentially going to Dodger Stadium?
I have no idea. Lon, what do you
you know. It's a proposal to have a gondola go from the train station to Dodger Stadium, and it's sort of been in the works for years. We're not that involved in it. We know a little bit about it, but it could happen. And really, we need transportation to Dodger Stadium. We're sort of an island in the middle of Los Angeles with very little public transportation, and we'd like to say it's great to get to Dodger Stadium. It takes a little bit of time, and once you get there, it's just a beautiful experience. It does take some time because Los Angeles, we have a little bit of traffic, not as much as New York or some of these other places, but sometimes, you know, close to game time, it takes a little time. So a gondola, other types of transportation would be helpful.
So when you get some feedback from fans after a game night, outside of winning or losing, is it generally about ingress, egress, or what else?
It's a little bit of everything. Look, fans have the right to be upset about how long it takes to get in, but I've been to stadiums all over the country. I get stuck in traffic everywhere.
I just remember in the newspaper the week before Dodger Stadium opened in 1962, local police were advising people to leave early because it will take you 2 hours to get there. They didn't know where they were coming from. Wow. They just said, it's going to take you a lot of time. So that's, and we just have a lot more cars now than we used to. We used to have 3-4 people in a car back then when we could accommodate all those cars. Now more and more we have individual people driving by themselves or just 2 people driving by themselves. It's more of a challenge than ever. We put a lot of resource into figuring out a better way. We're hoping AI can really help us with big math problems, which is all that this is. We're hoping AI is the next tool to maybe help us get better, so we're looking at that. But Lon was right when he said, it's worth it when you get there.
Right, and I will say it's amazing how much parking and traffic and ingress has been a focus of the last day and a half here. So 5 minutes, let's end with some fun quick hitters. Start with you, Stan. Favorite athlete growing up was?
Mickey Mantle.
Yours?
Walt Frazier.
What would if you knew now, no, what's my question? Sorry. Sorry. What advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I would probably want to have more of a law background, even though I'm anti-lawyer sometimes, not true. I was really fortunate in my career. I started out working for the Laker organization in marketing, and then I became a sports agent. And I was able to acquire knowledge with a legal background. I wish I took more legal classes when I was at USC. But when I look at sports now and how you enter, it's a roundabout way for people that are looking for jobs. It's very competitive. What I always suggest to people, look at the team listings, try to get your foot in the door anywhere you can, and don't just look at sports teams. There's all these companies out there that are in the business of sports. There's lots of ways to enter the business.
Stan, the advice you would give your younger self would be?
Stay ahead of the curve. Look at what's coming down the road next. Get good at that. Be smart about that, because you always need to be in a position of leading something, because if you're not leading, you're behind. And you can't afford to be behind in this extraordinarily competitive business. So keep looking, what is the next thing going to be, and figure out how to master that.
We all feel that these are very kind of salad days of sports business. Business seems to be good. What could be potential headwinds that concern you? Stan, I'll start with you.
Well, labor is always a problem. We have managed it for the last quarter of a century. Assuming we manage it well going forward, it's smooth sailing. Not that every day will be smooth, but in general, all the trends for our sport, for all our sports, are really, really, I mean, WNBA is undergoing some labor headwinds, but if you can get through that, and we know they will in both sports, then the future, I think, is rosy in all of the sports.
It's the media format. Where are you going to watch the games? How are you going to watch it? Where are they going to play? That's what's going to be really, really in the news for the next couple of years with all of the different sports leagues.
Do you worry sports is becoming too unaffordable for the common fan?
Well, we had a newspaper writer that wrote an article about us in about April or May and said that the Dodgers are unaffordable. Well, without giving the exact number, which is going to be very close to 4 million people, we're going to lead the league in attendance and all other metrics. So I guess the LA Times was just a bit off on their article about us. No, I don't think so. Look, there's different price points for everybody, and it's worked. And with Stan's leadership, we continue to make sure we have more affordable pricing in different parts of the stadium.
You think, obviously, you're still being able to draw 4 million. That's a great number.
Look, this writer who is a lovely guy, but who is talking to us about not being affordable. So I have this writer here, doesn't ever buy anything, is never a customer, who says we're unaffordable. And then I have 50,000 people a night who disagree with him. It's a quandary. Who do I listen to, We'll listen to the customers who keep telling us we're on the right track.
Help me finish this sentence. Could be quick because you see the time. All of us in this business are in the sports industry. The sports industry needs to do a better job of?
Just staying on top of trends, and I think we do that, but we need to be even more, because sports and owners tend to be traditionalists and hidebound. Sometimes that gets in the way of innovation. We can't ever let that happen. By and large, leadership in the sports have avoided that, but that's something to watch out for.
It's all about innovation. It's as they're doing in baseball, as they're doing in the other sports. You got to keep updating the rules. The way we watched the game back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s is much different than you watch it now. So you have to adapt and adjust to each of those trends, and that's what the leagues do. And we need to listen to some of the pundits out there, but not really pay attention to them.
True, false, Stan. Were the team you and Mark were going to buy the Houston Astros?
Yeah, I've told that before. That's
Okay. And true or false? I thought he was going to say the sports industry needs to do a better job of having more agents.
Oh, Stan and his agents.
Stan does not-
loves agents.
This is a whole other panel. But for the record, I have always been a fan of unions. I've always hated agents, and that's a very big difference.
He doesn't hate agents. Don't use hate.
He doesn't like them.
Okay, there you go.
He doesn't like them. All right, so we'll see a lot of you. We'll see Dodger Stadium tonight. Give it up for Stan Kasten, Lon Rosen. Thanks for the time on a busy week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of On Stage. If you enjoyed this exclusive conversation with the Dodgers leadership team, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with colleagues or anyone interested in the strategy behind championship organizations. Here's a thought starter as you reflect on this conversation. How can your organization blend tradition with innovation to create lasting value for fans, partners, and stakeholders? Shoot me a note at tbloom@sportsbusinessjournal.com. I'd love to hear your perspective. We'll be back next week with another exclusive conversation with a leader shaping the future of sports. Until next time, stay tuned and stay ahead. This is On Stage.